All right, so if this is your first time, or as a reminder, because it's been a while on our Friday calls, here's how they typically work. I will teach, so I have some slides. I'm going to teach a concept specifically from the program live. That's going to be about 10 minutes, 15 at the most. Then what we're going to do is I will be opening up to coaching. This can be on anything you need help with. Specifically, I don't understand this concept in SOAR, or I have this goal I'm working on and I don't know how to break it down, or I could use help with the Trello question or making time block scheduling. Anything that you need help with, we'll do until the top of the hour. So the way that we ask is if you want specific coaching today, use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. That way you'll kind of queue up in line. And at any point, you can raise your hand and we can do some coaching. So let me start with sharing my screen first, and we'll head into my slides because today we're talking about mindfulness. I was excited when I was doing this because it's definitely like one of my goals for, let me make this a little bit smaller, for this year is to be more present, to be more mindful, to really be more of a driver in the driver's seat of my, of my time and not a passenger. And so that's what I want to talk about today. There is already a session on mindfulness inside SOAR. So if you want to go watch it, it is inside the S section. So you can go watch that here. We'll also take this call and put it there as a bonus. We want you to watch the core foundational video first, the one that's like 15 minutes or less. And then we're going to put these in the sections as I do them. So you can always check Friday. It'll say exactly what I'm teaching on. I'll be teaching every Friday this month, except for the last Friday of the month. We had to change it if you haven't seen the calendar yet. I don't think it's even been changed because it just happened yesterday because I got surgery scheduled. So I'll be in surgery on Thursday. I will not be able to be recovered by Sunday. Everything's fine. I'm getting my sinus surgery finally, but I know I wasn't going to be a place for it. So we will probably have somebody cover the call and it'll just be open coaching. So I'm going to start with talking about mindfulness today as we get in. So what's the impact? What's the point? What is the focus of being mindful and why does it matter when it comes to your goals? I know a lot of times when we get into the program, we just want to do the goals. Just let me do the goals. Teach me how to break my goal down. I would just like to check things off my list, right? But when you are mindful, not just in how I think we traditionally think about mindfulness, right? When a lot of people think about mindfulness, we think about breath work and we think about meditation. Now, I'm going to talk about those types of things, but I also mean being mindful of your feelings, being mindful of your thoughts, being present in your day to day, and being mindful about the reality of your goals. Because what happens often is why we get to the end of the week and you're like, I didn't do anything. And this is why we always start with a win on our accountability calls, because I want you to pull out what your win was for the week to get mindful and present in what's happening. When you are mindful and present as a driver in the driver's seat of your goals, again, and not a passenger, you're able to look objectively and say, this goal didn't work. Let me figure out why. Not everything sucks. I'm terrible. I don't know how to do this. I'm never going to get there. So when you are more mindful, not only are you more interactive in your life, you're more present with your people, you're more present with yourself. And one of the things I've actually learned about myself this year and noticed is that this mindfulness that I've been working on has also helped me be more in touch with my own person, like as Cara. Stuff will happen and I am better equipped to process it through and why am I doing this? Like really try to understand it and not just justify things. Well, that's the way it is. This is the way I am. This is the way things have always been, right? That fixed mindset. Instead, I really feel like I've been working on living every time block intentionally, right? When I sit down to work on a goal, what's the purpose of it all? And I think all of that is tied, tied into mindfulness. Okay. So when we think about mindfulness, a couple things might pop into our mind. Ready? And I want to start with the meditation piece because we're going to talk a lot about like being present. And I think that's so important. We don't slow down as mom. We're just always going, going, going. And we rarely sit to reflect, to meditate, to pause, to ask ourselves, how is my body feeling? I want you to actually sit right now, take a deep breath and ask yourself, like, what does my body feel right now? Right? Am I sore because I worked out yesterday? We were talking about that the other day, right? Because I worked out yesterday. Am I feeling a little anxious because it's Friday and I realized I didn't accomplish the things I need for the weekend? It might snow tomorrow. Does that make me feel nervous? Do I actually feel relaxed or excited? Right? It doesn't have to take a long time to check in with yourself. Okay. I also do recommend, though, if you don't have some sort of prayer, meditation, quiet habit, that you think about putting it on your goal list for 2025, because this is similar to how I talk about therapy, right? I always say therapy is like a proactive tool that I use when I don't need it. So when I do need it, I can pull from my reserves. It's kind of the same as getting on these calls. You get on the calls, maybe when you need them, but also if you get on them habitually and you're like, I get on every week, and we talked about this earlier in the week, like maybe you don't have a struggle, like you just get on, not just to triage what's going on, but just to be in the presence. When you're not there and you're not in a good place, you're able to pull from it. So if you just ask yourself, like, do I have time in my day where I do something like stop and pray, meditate, get quiet, feet up on the walls, like just sit with my body? Because for a lot of us moms, we are on from the minute our feet hit the floor to the minute we go to bed, right? Or at least the minute to the kids go to bed. For me, like my son is an early riser, so my man is up before me many days. Like many days I go downstairs, I get up around 6, I go downstairs and he's sitting on the couch watching TV. Like we've tried everything and we've just accepted that he just wakes up early, and as long as he gets dressed and has his breakfast and brushes his teeth, I could care less, right? Like I've taught him these are the snacks you're allowed to grab while you wait, right? For me to make like a full breakfast for you. This is the shows you're allowed to, like he knows his limits on it. So I understand if it feels like you don't get any time for yourself, because I get up and he's already up. And my kids now, they go to bed at 9 o'clock, right? So they're not going to bed till 9. And I try to go up to my bed at 10. So I don't have a lot of time that is not in need, right? Where I'm in when people don't need me. So what I need to do is carve pockets of my day out to stop and reflect. And so I do this in a few ways, and I'll give you some suggestions if you don't have one. Again, you could do like a traditional meditation where you just sit and you get quiet, and there's apps you can use and you think about whatever, or you don't think about whatever. Totally fine. I do my prayer in the morning, and then for me, that's when I kind of like do a check-in on like how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'll go and I'll do my dream walks, right? It's cold right now, so I'm not going outside, but I'll do a walk and I'll be like, I'm going to intentionally think about this. For myself, another way that I get really intentional and check in, like I want you to think of mindful and the word check in. I want you to put those two together, right? So the way that I do that is at the end of the night, I do my Trello check-in. You can see my screen, right? Here's my Trello board. It exists up here. And at the end of every night, this is something I work on. And I've been doing good this week. I check in on my goals. And then I kind of ask myself, we talked about a to-do list at a call earlier this week. Like, hey, what did I do this today that was like, made me feel really proud, right? Like, how am I doing? All right. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, and it doesn't always have to be, I'm going to sit in silence. Being mindful is not about that. It's about being in touch and present. Now, there is power in sitting in silence. And I'm going to tell you, as a talker, that is very, very hard for me. I'm very uncomfortable in silence. Okay. But it doesn't mean that I can't push myself to try, right? So I could try and say, okay, this is another piece of the day where I personally get it in, right? At 3 o'clock, I stop my workday and I leave here at 3:20 to go pick up my kids. So that gives me 20 minutes to kind of close up shop at my desk, grab whatever water or whatever I need, and go get my kids. And so I try to use at least 5 minutes in that time to just exist, where I will just sit on my couch and like, I don't go to my phone, right? Because I can scroll it later. I'm not thinking of my to-do list, and I just sit there and I just allow my body to kind of think like, hey, what's going on? We've been going since 6 a.m. You've been doing good, right? Like, let's just sit and chill for a second, because as soon as I pick up the kids, I need to take my work hat off, put my mom hat on, and I'm needed in a different capacity. Okay. And I think that's important. It's important for you to add into your schedule. So I do recommend it. So I feel like I probably talked through all of my slides already because I forgot that I even had slides up, but let's talk about how you can do it. All right. In minutes, how you can just get started before you get out of bed. So this is something that I'm working on in 2025 because of the fact that my son gets up earlier than me. So if your kids get up earlier than you and they're self-sufficient in the morning, this could work for you. If they're not, like they're younger and babies and stuff. Again, my son is 7. He's been getting up, quote, without me since he was like 5. Now my husband's home. My husband's already downstairs working out in the gym. He gets up before me, so it's not like he's like home alone by himself. Though I've shared this story how my son tried to make his pancakes. Some of you might remember this. And they were like frozen pancakes, and he put them in the toaster, and then he put a dishcloth on top of the toaster, and there was almost a fire. So this is why we've had to tell him of what he cannot do in the morning by himself. But he is supervised most of the time. Before I get out of bed, for me, I stop and I just breathe. I don't go into my phone. I literally take 60 seconds and I stop. And for me, I always, every morning I wake up and I'm like, thank you, God, for waking me up. And I go, okay? Because as soon as I go, I know that I'm gone, right? So taking that minute, the overwhelmed, the mindful pause slash the mommy time out. This is a habit in my home. A lot of times when I feel myself losing it, especially lately, I don't know what it is. I'm incredibly impatient with my 9-year-old. I think I see a lot of her in me, and now that we're like hitting puberty, I just see it. It's very hard. Parenting her right now is challenging for me. So I find myself saying, "Mommy's going to take a time out in the other room," and I walk in the other room, which is here because this has a door. And I sit, and it has this is probably, my bedroom doesn't have a lock. So this office is my only space with like a door and a lock. So I sit and I just sit and I breathe, right? And I just take some breaths and get myself together, because if not, I know I can be short-tempered, and that's not the mom that I'd like to be. And then also I mentioned the check-in, the to-do list. That's in R if you want to watch that video. But having gratitude allows you to be mindful. What is something I'm grateful for today? What is something I'm proud of? This is a family thing that we've been doing for the past few months at dinner. We read like a devotional. If we have time, we'll read a short Bible story. But while we're eating, like before we do the devotional, we all go around and you say something that you're thankful for God, like something God, that you're like, I'm thankful God help me here. And then something we're praying for. And so we all kind of go around, and my kids, like, they're getting there sometimes. My son typically every day is like, I'm thankful that I have a good life, and I pray I have a good life. That's like him every day. But it allows that conversation, and it is a nice check to allowing myself to be more mindful. Okay. Habit triggers. We talk about habit triggers also in our, this is where you're going to couple one habit with an already existing habit. Okay. So if you're like, I would like to have a minute a day. And again, if you don't have this on your 2025 list, this is why we're starting the year this way with this lesson. I do want to encourage you to pick one way you can do it. And again, 60 seconds. Do not feel like you have to go on a yoga retreat and sit in silence for 20 hours, right? Like, what can you do for a minute? Brush your teeth, right? Focus on like what's happening. Be present in the moment, right? When you're in the car, breathing deeply. This is a really big one for me. Like, I will admittedly like, oh, red light, phone. Oh, red light, phone, right? And so I am trying to switch those triggers over to, instead of oh, red light, phone, to oh, red light, let me practice my breathing. Okay. Again, working on your breathing, and like that square breathing where you take 4 in, hold for 4, and let it go for 4. That's triangle breathing. That's only 3 4s. I don't know where my fourth 4 went, but that practice of deep breathing, we don't do. We take these short, tiny little breaths. So when you're practicing deep breathing more, and then when your body feels like it needs the deep breathing, you already have that habit. Okay. And then being present with your kids. This is a big one that I have my kids call me on. We have no phone times of our day. They're not a lot, but we do have a few. Dinner is one of them. If my kids see me grabbing my phone, mommy, phone, I want them to, because I want to be present with them. If my kid is doing his homework and he has to read a story, I want to listen to his story while he's sitting with me and look at my phone. But in my heart and my soul and my core, I really want that connection with him. So when he's doing it, I challenge myself to listen to what he's doing, right? To be present with my kids, to fully give them my attention when I can't. My kids tell me lots of stories all the time. Like, they're always, can I tell you this? My kids are very curious and inquisitive. This morning, the conversation was about money. I don't even know what it was, why it started, but my daughter was like, do the people who make money get paid for the money that they make? And I was like, what? Like the mint? And I was like, what? And then we wound up getting into this conversation about wages, like hourly wages and minimum wage versus salary jobs. And like, we just talk about the most random stuff, but it's really important to my kid. Right. So I make sure that when she was asking me those questions, I was like getting breakfast ready and I asked, my brain was like, can we stop for 30 seconds and just like make eye contact with her, right? Same with if you're in a relationship with your partner, right? I read this once and I try to do it like when your partner comes home, are you giving them a hey like from the other room, or do you just stop and look at them? How often are we actually looking at people to be mindful and present? It's not a lot. How often are we in conversation where I'm talking to you and you're thinking about either what you're going to say next or other things? Challenge yourself to be more mindful, because when you are, that's when you're going to start to notice the successes, the wins, the gratitude, the things that are going well. When we're not mindful about things, we can live in this negative place of this isn't going well, this is where I'm struggling, everything is terrible, everything awful, right? Instead of actually, this piece of something might be awful, but it doesn't mean everything is. This was like a prayer thing I've been working on too with anxiety and stress. And it was this reminder of like things are allowed to be stressful, but I don't have to be stressed about them. And for me as a Christian, that's like because God has it, right? And I have that on a post-it note in my kitchen. This can be stressful, but I don't need to be stressed. And it's that same reminder of having the conscious of like what's happening, and just because one stressful piece is happening, one thing in my goals isn't working, right? It doesn't mean we catastrophize and everything is awful, right? It's making sure we're being present. And again, this is where it's not that toxic positivity, but it's instead that intentional mindfulness about what's actually happening. This is why, if you get good at this sort of thing, when a goal isn't working, you can step back and objectively ask, well, what isn't working about it? Not, I'm never going to be able to be a runner, right? It's like, okay, well, it looks like the time of day that I picked to run like isn't working. Or it looks like maybe my plan is a little bit more aggressive than where I'm at right now and I have to back it up. Okay. It allows you to be that detective. So how do we remember, right? How do we remember to do our 60 seconds? Some habit tips here, right? Putting reminders on your phone. I love transition time, which is I'm sorry, the transition time block principle that we teach in A, right? Where like in between your time blocks, you're doing something to move your brain from this activity to this. Okay. It could be physical, it could be mental, whatever. So I love having alarms that go off in between my typical time blocks that remind me that I'm transitioning. And at that time, a good transition activity is being mindful. Oh, what's something I'm proud of that I just did over this time block? Right? Where's the gratitude there? We talked about the triggers as well, but also giving yourself grace. Okay. It is very important to create mindfulness practices because, again, I think it really changes your attitude. I'm sure, because I know I am around people who are very catastrophic thinkers, right? They're very negative. All they do is complain and complain and complain. And it's exhausting, right? Like it's exhausting to be around people like that where no conversations are empowering or lifting up anything. It's just literally complaining about how everything is terrible, or that's it. And I want you to pay attention to the friends you're around, to the people you're around, to yourself. Be mindful. Am I doing that? Are other people doing that? And I notice, I know people, certain people, if I'm around them too long, I will easily fall into, oh, I know if I want to complain about my husband, I know exactly who to go to. Oh, if I want to complain about family, I know who to go to. If I want to complain about money, I know who to go to, right? We don't want to have those people. We don't want to be around people where it's like, oh, good, I know that I can just complain, because it brings us down. It brings our energy down. So being mindful about your circle, being mindful about your energy, being mindful about the things that you do, I think is also really important. And then noticing it. And I'm not saying, so again, I know that I have friends that like, if the more time I spend with them, like I can feel myself like getting more complaining, more negative. Like I don't like that. And it's catching myself in it and saying, oh yeah, this isn't where I want to be. This isn't what I want to do. And instead it's stopping and saying, maybe I just need a break from this relationship for a little bit. Maybe I just need a pause for this. Maybe I just, this isn't a let me text you every day type of thing. And this is how also like our social media feeds are curated, right? If I notice on my TikTok FYP, I start watching certain videos about marriage troubles, or things like that, or people like, especially around the holidays, I found this happening where like my FYP on TikTok started to be like moms complaining about, not complaining, but moms like talking about the invisible load of the holidays on mothers, which is true. It's not a bad conversation. But then all of a sudden it kept being more and more and more. And I figured that was, all of a sudden I was like, wait, this is like all I'm seeing. So you know what it was doing for my mindset? I was getting real annoyed at my husband, real annoyed, real fast. And it wasn't until I realized what I was doing that I stopped and I paused for a little bit and I was like, wait, I don't want to see this type of stuff anymore because while it's helpful, it's not moving me where I want to be and it's putting me in a different mindset. So it's paying attention to the input that you're taking if you do not like the output. All right. And again, mindfulness isn't about changing who you are as a person, but becoming more of the person you want to be, like the person that is inside. I don't want to be a person who complains all the time. I don't want to be a person that's negative. I don't want to be a person that's always looking at the bad things. And I'm telling you, my therapist, talking about marriage this week, right? My therapist encouraged me because I was getting annoyed with my husband and I was like, everything was annoying me. And she said, I want you to write down something you like really love about him every single day. And I started to do that. And I started to do that. And do you know what happened? I started to have those feelings go away and have more positive feelings towards him, right? It's about taking the person I want to be and amplifying it. And depending on what you're doing, like what you're inputting is going to take that output of the person you are, your actions, your thoughts, and your behaviors, and it's going to multiply it. Okay. So if you want to be a person who is positive and isn't complaining about stuff and you're only around negative people, well, that's not going to work because that's going to be the opposite of what you're probably going to be. And I want you to be mindful. Mindfulness isn't just let me take some breaths. Mindfulness is being particular, paying attention, noticing things, using that phrase, oh, I noticed this. Because I don't want you to shame it or blame it, right? I don't want you to be like, I can never hang out with that person. They're so negative. It's just, oh, I noticed, right? Okay, so example, cookie season right now. I'm Girl Scout leader, cookies start next week. I'm the leader and I help manage the cookies. So it's a lot of work on me. It's a lot of work, right? And I know it and I am fine with it. But I noticed that like I was talking to some of my friends who are parents and they're like, oh, cookie season, oh, booze, like just complaining about it. And I found myself getting caught back in like, oh, I'm not looking forward to this. Like tonight we have an event with the girls. And I was like, oh, I don't feel like going. I don't feel like, and I was like, stop. And I was mindful and I was like, pause. You really like this. Like I love what I get to do as a leader. Well, no, I don't like being cold and I don't like adults complaining because that's really the only problem we have in cookie season is adults. I'm like, I don't like that. I like the impact. So I need to stop engaging in this negative conversation when people come at me complaining about cookie stuff. Like, even if they're not complaining about it, they just want to like have a minute to think about it. I need to pause it because I notice it's changing me. Mindfulness is that it is noticing things and saying, oh, I notice that this is my behavior when I'm in these spaces and I don't like it. Or I do like it and I will do more of it. So what I want you to do this week is challenge yourself to be more present. Challenge yourself to have some times where you're taking some breaths and feeling and noticing your body, being mindful about your goals, your success, your environment. Pay attention. Okay. You are in the driver's seat of your life right now. And when you're not paying attention, what you're doing is you're moving right into the passenger seat and you're just kind of letting life go by and not taking the action. So I'm going to pause here for the teaching today. If you have questions about this topic, or let me stop my screen share. If you have questions about this topic, if you have questions about any source stuff you want coaching on, we are now open for coaching for the next half hour. I want you to use the raise hand feature that's oh, you don't see my slide at all? Oh, I'm sitting here talking this whole time and I had these cute little slides. Okay. Well, I don't know what you saw, but hopefully it wasn't anything too bad. Did you see my screen at all? What did you see? Just me? Was it just me? Or was it my screen? I didn't even see the chat going up. You heard me though, right? It's fine. You didn't need to see my slides. As long as you heard me, we're fine. Oh. Well, fun. I have lots of Zoom files on my computer. I'm glad that you enjoyed those. I'll put the slides into the Zoom so you can see them. Here, I'll show you them. You didn't miss out on anything. That's interesting. I wonder. Okay. Well, here, can you see this now? It's cool. It's fine. These were my slides. They weren't even that big of a deal. Everything you heard from me was fine. All right, let's do some coaching. I'll put those slides in and use your raise hand feature. It's going to put you to the top of my list so that I can make sure we get as much in as we need. Diane, I'm going to kick off with you. Hey, good afternoon. Oh, wait, hold on. I think you might not be able to unmute. Wait, I realized. One sec. Okay, try it now.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm encouraged. You just shared a bunch of golden nuggets.
Good. Well, good. At least you can hear me.
Uh,
There we go.
love it. Yeah, I liked your transition tip of being looking for something that you're thankful for in your previous time block before you transition to the next one.
Mhm.
That was great. See, I was listening to you.
Excellent. There it is.
Yeah. So I just have something really specific. Um, so there was something that you said 2 days ago. Was it 2 days ago? And I'm
Yeah.
not going to get into it, but it encouraged me personally deep. And it made me have this thought that made me go into action in a different kind of way. And I'm always afraid to post things because um, a lot of times I don't communicate clearly unless I really work on it.
Mhm.
And then I always wonder, is what I'm saying relative? So I actually did post something, and it was inspired just to write, not the content, but just to write. And I did, and I got some positive feedback. But I've thought about posting it in our Facebook thing just to
Mhm.
see how people like react. Like, oh, I think that that's helpful in that situation or not. And would that be good to do?
Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear though. So you want to post something like on your social media and you just want feedback before you post it?
No, no, I already posted something on another platform
Mm-hmm.
and I got good feedback from it, but just because it's a testing of my writing to put it in the club, just to see if anybody would be interested in that information.
Oh, I got you. Kind of like something you want to give to people or like that type of thing. Or
Um,
or it's just like something inspiring and you're like, I would like to share this with people.
that's it.
Yeah, go for it, Diane. We would love
That's
stuff like that. Yes, I was gonna say if it's like a promo thing, I have a freebie, come to my blog post. If you like say you write it on a blog post, right? Those things once a month we have a thread for that. But yeah, inspire us. I love that. Yeah.
okay. I don't actually know how to do that on Facebook.
Permission granted. Oh,
I,
is it long? Is it
uh,
like you put it up on the other platform and you want to share the link?
it's maybe, yeah, I don't know. No, I couldn't share it to that platform. It wouldn't be too long. I just don't know how to do it. So I always get afraid that I'm going to open up something and Facebook is going to see everything of my.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's a link to something that like you wrote and you want to share it, you can just share the direct link. If you go to the place where you wrote it, if you don't see like right off the bat where the share button is or something, I would just Google like how to share something I wrote on whatever platform and let somebody on the internet tell you where the share button is. And there's probably like a YouTube video that shows you where the share button is.
Okay, it's on my Google Docs. I mean, I have it written.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Do you want me to show you how to share?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how to share so nobody edits it. Let me show you that. All right, hold on. This is our club stuff. All right, here's a Google Doc. Here's my calendar, right? So it's like a doc, like a Google Doc, right? So if you go up here to this corner and you hit share, if you change this to anyone with the link, And then
Okay.
you make sure this is on viewer, because
Okay.
if it's on editor, they can edit it. Then you paste it somewhere, so like let me go into an incognito browser. So like if I pasted this somewhere random, they couldn't do anything really with it. They couldn't edit it. They could just see it.
Okay.
That's how you want to share it
Yes.
there.
Okay. Thank you. That's
All right.
all.
Nice. I can't wait to see it. Marie, you're up next. Hello, hello. Been hanging out all week. Excited to hear how things have been going.
They're going well. I am accomplishing things. I finished up S&O and going to start A. But on the Trello 101 masterclass, it tells how to use, um, well, let me get my words straight. It tells how to use teams as folders. And I don't see teams on my Trello, and I wondered if they had changed it. And
Yes, and I need to update that, and I'm going to type the update. I'm going to pull that up for myself. Yes, they're
okay.
now called workspaces and not teams.
Oh, okay.
And I'm literally going to go. People ask this like once a month, and I realize like that video is very old. So one, I
Okay.
should update that video.
So I
Is
can have many workspaces then?
Yeah, and I will show you. I just want to write this
Okay.
in here. Hold
All
on.
right, great.
Note. I'm going to write a note here. Note, this video is pretty old, so things may have changed. People ask it, I always forget something to do it right now, but in particular, teams are now called workspaces. Okay, I'm going to redo this video this month. Yeah, here, let me screen share and I'll show you how to create workspaces.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, you let me know if you can see my screen now.
Okay, I
All right,
can.
so here I'm in my Trello. So I'll go to my up here at the top, you'll see your different workspaces. These are all of mine. I have so many. So those are there. And then if you want to create a new workspace, it used to be up here, but now it's over here, I think, in this little face. Yes. If you go over to your face in the top corner of your board, and you go down here, it says to create workspace. And
Okay,
then you'll be able to make it that way.
okay, great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Tara, hello.
Hello. Oh my gosh, perfect timing. Just sorry, I don't know if you can hear my coffee machine. I'm making my afternoon latte. This is my
Nice.
transition time. Just laid down, baby boy. And now I'm like, what
Yes,
shall I
take.
do for the next 80 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I should spend some of that time spitballing with you. Okay.
Let's do it.
So we talked earlier this week about like kind of how to link in different kinds of goals, like feeling goals and practical goals and everything.
Yeah.
And as you were teaching today, what I'm realizing is I'm missing like the link between those longer term goals and like today. So I'd love to hear if you have a way, like, do you have a space or a system that you use for like housing your longer term goals? Or do you just keep that kind of in your head in dream sessions and you just go week by week? Am I explaining myself?
Yeah, longer term, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, and
Yes.
eventually I'd like to do. As you're saying it, this was something I wanted to put on my Trello board and I didn't, so I'm gonna do it right now.
Yay.
Show you how I'm gonna do it. Yes, because this happens to me. Well, this is not, let me click up now.
Because
This
I
happens
like I
to
want
me a
to
lot.
build the blocks because a
Yeah.
lot of times my monthly goals aren't even like it's just something I need to do and then it's not moving me closer to that 10-year vision, right?
Yes. Okay. So there's a couple questions. There's a couple pieces inside of that. So here's my board
Hmm.
for 2025, right? So one thing I literally thought of this on Wednesday's call because on Wednesday's call, I came up with a goal that I didn't realize I had. And I was like, wait, I haven't thought of this. And I was like, wait, this needs a home and I don't want to lose it, but I need to put
Hmm.
it. So there's two pieces. There's the one of where do I house those things, right? Like those longer term things. And then the second is how do I check in? So let's answer question one, which is the logistical, which is what I'm going to do now because I wanted to do it this week and I haven't done it yet. It was on my list for Sunday. So inside my board, what I'm going to do is create this list and it could be called a dream could be called like one day. Like it doesn't, yeah, I like one day. All right, so one day. So these are things that I'm like, these are goals I want to work on. They pop in my head. I don't have them planned out. I don't know when I'm going to work on them, but I know I want them on my board. These feel exciting to me. And this happens a lot when we're on like Sunday planning and I hear all of your goals and I'm like, oh, where do I want to put them? Now, could I make my own like board with just these? Yeah. But for me, I want to house it in one place. So one is I have this. Okay. So my one day goal, right? Like we want to get a trailer and travel. Like that pops in my head. On Wednesday's call, I was like, I want to do home improvement projects. And then last night I was like, oh, I want to redo the kitchen. Right. So like, I don't know when I'm going to work on this. I don't know if it's going to happen now. I don't know if it's going to happen in 10 years. I don't know when it's going to happen. My husband, we want to go to Italy. Okay. So like all these things that come up that I want to keep here for like that visual. My brain gets on board with the goal. I see the goal. It becomes real because it's not just like floating in my head. And then is the part two of like, well, what do I do with them? Okay. So part one is like asking yourself, like, where do you want to put them? For me, this makes sense. I might finagle this a little where like I make cards that say like 2025, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Like, like I might, but we're going to let this sit as it is. The second piece is this system. Okay. So one of the things I found for myself last year was I was really good at doing my Sunday planning. Like every week without fail, I can do that. But what I wasn't great at and where I'm pushing myself personally to improve this year is big goal check-ins, like doing more of that. Because I can make a great January plan. Like here's my January. This is my real life. This is my January plan. I got the month. It's set out. I'll move my cards. Like I'll keep it going and I'll accomplish my January-ish goals. We'll move towards all of that. We got it here. And then at the end of the month, I'll look at it and then I'll whatever. But these lists here sometimes get left behind. And so I have a couple prongs that I'm using this year. So one of them is going to be that at the end of January, these two lists, 2025 goals and quarter one goals, I'm going to move them. So typically I delete as I go, like the week lists on Trello. But I keep maybe some of these other ones. I'm going to delete them or whatever I'm going to do, but I'm going to move. I'm going to have these two lists kind of move with me so that these things don't get lost in the sauce. They don't get like forgotten along the way. Okay. And then the other thing I'm doing, so that's monthly. So I'm just going to keep moving it. So I review it. I realized I didn't have a really good weekly and monthly big goal check-in. Again, I'll spend 20 minutes and I'll plan my week out, but I wasn't like checking back in on these as much as I wanted to, or these like, do these fit in? Do these make sense? So what I did is, okay. So actually what I did this week was, I think I put it in here somewhere. Here we go. Sundays, I made it as a task for myself that I'm going to do this is like typically when I do my check-ins and my Sunday planning anyway, where once a week I'm going to do a goal check-in with my goal binder and I'm going to sit and like romanticize it and like things like that. I am actually going to challenge myself to go do it outside of my house as well. Like I want to make it a ritual. So I'm going to drop my daughter at cheer and then it's Sunday. So I don't know, I'll find a coffee shop and I'm going to do it then because I realized that while I was doing my weekly check-ins and weekly we were fine, a lot of the bigger stuff got, I don't know, just kind of like thrown like to the back burner for me, right? So I've put it in here as a date and I made it a project-based goal for me. So this week I put it in for weekly big goal check-in because I literally thought of this earlier in the week. But you see how I don't have it I'm going to make it right now for myself to be a thing I put under my actions towards goals, which timeout. For anybody who has this Trello board, I just changed the template. You don't have to change your template or anything, but this used to say tasks and I changed it to action towards goals because I realized people were getting confused because when I talk about tasks now, I actually mean like the Q1 things that you do. And having tasks here, I didn't like that. So I just moved it to like, what are the actions towards my big project and my numerical big goals? So anyway, so if you're looking at your board and like, it looks a little different. So, okay, so that's two parts of what I do. It's where am I going to house the fun things I do here? And then what is the system I'm going to have for that? So weekly, I'm going to just check in on all my big goals. Monthly, I'm going to move these two things. And then I think quarterly, I don't know. I might have like a little mini retreat with myself, right? Like go to the coffee shop and sit and like look at like really sit in this for a little bit, like really sit in these dreams, because there's so many things we want to accomplish and they get forgotten because then all the other things come up for us. All right. What do you think? Questions on that?
Yeah. And then within that card, you could do the breakdown. Like if it's a 10-year goal, breaking it down and saying like, if I want to, what's one of my 10-year goals? I mean, it's really what you do week to week. For example, if my 10-year goal, this is going to be really easy, but just to like start it in my brain.
Mhm.
If I want to pay off our house in 10 years, then I know like underneath that 10-year goal, okay, then in 3 years we have to pay this percentage
Yeah.
back. And then if that's a 3-year goal, what are we doing this year? We're hoping to pay off this much money.
Right. Yep. And you
And
can do
then
this.
like translating that into action, like how are we going to get that money? And then breaking it down, what habits, like budgeting and finding areas that we can, I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
complicating it too much.
no, you're not.
That's
That's
how I'm
exactly
trying to like see the accordion of the goal. Like
No, but
this is
that's
today and
exactly
this
what
is
you
10
would
years
do.
and it's like stretching
Yeah.
it out.
And for a lot of people, I know I've been talking to a lot of people this week who are struggling with just making 2025 goals. So if you're struggling, like think that far, listen, but tune us out a bit. But if you're like, oh, I do want to do some of these bigger goals, like say it, like we want to pay off our house, like this trip to Italy, like we really want to go for, I think we were going to do it for our 10th. I think we're going to aim to do it for our 15th wedding anniversary, right? So what does that have to look like now? And there'll be some quarters where I don't work on the goal at all. Some quarters where maybe I'm like, oh, look, my summer's light. I'm going to start learning Italian now. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to put this heavy thing on, this heavier thing on. We want to build an addition on our house, right? Like what is those types of things? And again, I think if this is the card space here, if I have pay off my house here inside, that's where I'm going to probably put objectives for myself. And then when you're doing your monthly planning, going back to this list and asking yourself, based on your breakdown, is there something that needs to happen today to be able to get there? Because for some of these, it's like, I can't even think about it, right? But I think there's a lot of benefit in having like a dream big, far-fetched, head in the clouds type of goals like that, where it's like, I don't even know what I'm trying to just like drink enough water today. Like I can't imagine running a marathon, right? But like for me, like I would love to run a marathon, right? I don't know how it's going to happen. And so I know it maybe feels hard in the minute, but having it on my list just feels exciting. And so I think it's asking yourself, yeah, when you're doing your monthly and weeklies, is there a piece of this 10-year goal that like I could be working on right now? Maybe. And then maybe some years it's like, no. And you won't know till you kind of do the breakdown. Now, with these goals that are 5-10-year goals, and I don't talk a lot about 5-10-year goals. So I feel like I want to put that down. I want to talk about that is, this is a great type of goal to go into use, dream, learn, plan, do, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Be like, okay, we really do want to like get this trailer and travel, but then we just made financial goals this year to pay off some stuff where like, maybe it doesn't make sense, but like it would be really nice in the next 5 years, maybe for us to like get this RV and do this, whatever. I'm going to spend 2025 just in dream mode about it. Like, I'm just going to think about it. I'm going to date this idea for a little bit and I'm going to tip
Pinterest board or something fun.
Exactly.
And
I'm going to let it be light and think about it. And then maybe I spend 2026 like learning and 2027 planning it before we start. I know we want that dopamine immediate gratification, but there are some goals, like I know we have a lot of moms that are here that are like in their empty nest phase or their kids are getting ready to graduate. Like I think about now, like my oldest is graduating high school this year, right? My youngest is only 7, so we have a long time before we get there, but it's not. 10 years is not. Wow, okay. Yeah. So like wow, that just hit me. My 10-year goals I need to make are when my youngest is going to college. God. Oh, oh God. Oh man, that really just hit me. Okay. Wow.
And
Okay.
it plays into the seasonality thing too. So like if
Yeah.
this is the season that I'm with my little kids, then like maybe I don't have to like try and grip so tightly onto these things that I'll have a moment for.
Yes. Yes.
Mm, yeah.
Oh, wait. Now I Okay, and especially today his birthday's early. He's September, so he will be 17 when he, so it is actually,
Oh.
yeah, okay. I'm not having a crisis at all in my brain right now. Okay, yep, that's fine. That's fine. But anyway, did this help you kind of see the thread? I like how you said that, the thread of like how to piece it together a little bit.
Yeah, I like how you could just scale the learn plan, like dream, learn plan, do, and just make that like, and part of my brain wants to be like, remember to keep in mind, like we don't need to spend a lot of time. This can just be like just having a little pocket of time, like you were talking about earlier today, like as a way to kind of disconnect from the daily reality and just spend a few minutes like looking on Pinterest and finding fun images or like
And
journaling
again,
about.
we don't have to do it all the time too. And I think this
Yeah.
thing, we feel like we have a goal, we should be constantly in the goal. We're constantly in those tier one goals, right? Like my tier one goal right now, I'm in it. I don't need to constantly be in my 10-year goal, but maybe once a quarter, I go out on a date with myself and I take a dream walk and I think about it. And then it allows it to be more real. And there is that visualization. There is those pieces of our brain that start to open up and start to see it and start to think like, yeah, I think that's important too.
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. And for the people, those of us who like those big goals, like the dreaming, the visionary, the futuristic oriented people like me, like leaving space for that and considering it just like, yeah, just joy I can have when I need to just kind
Yeah,
of disconnect. Yeah, I like it. All
I
right,
like that
very
a lot
cool.
too. I am so glad you asked that because now I'm like, oh my God, that really hit me. I can't believe I'm gonna say it to my husband and walk out of the room today. So now I'm putting a goal on myself of brainstorming 10-year goals because I'm realizing I don't do it as well as I would like to. So you've just this is twice, friends. I have been on coaching calls and y'all have given me something that I was like, oh, I want to start focusing on that. Okay.
Well, it's in your system already though. Like
Yeah.
we have the time for mission statements and for
Mhm.
visions and like it's in there. And that's what I always go into this part of my loop of like, am I just not trusting that I'm going to have the tools that I need to make the decisions at that time? Like, am I making this too big and too important?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of us, like, we know, especially like Tara's been around for a while. I see a lot of new faces on today, but like, when you've gone through SOAR once, twice, when you've been here, when you understand it, it is that trust. I always tell people as a life coach, like, I feel like my job is to empower you until you're ready to empower yourself, right? Like, you have it, you've learned it. We need the reminders, which goes back to the mindfulness piece I was talking about, input versus output when it comes to the noise, right? Being on these calls, being in these conversations, like I'm leaving this call like excited to work on my goals. And I'm sure when you all get on the calls, it feels fun to talk around people who like are talking about the same thing when like in my real life I have certain sets of friends that like I have a friend, she's one of my accountability buddies for one of my goals and we Marco Polo every single day and it is incredible. But in my day-to-day life of like my circle of like my kids, friends, parents that like we're friends, like good friends, that's not the conversation. And it's like very interesting to notice of like, yeah, we talk about stuff, but it's really much more here versus like here. And that's okay. We read the Life Council a couple last year. I think it's a very good book, 10 Friends Every Woman Needs. I highly recommend it. Because when I read that book, it reminded me that not everyone is going to be this like this friend I Marco Polo, that's my soul sister, right? Like that's what she's called in the book. Like we can talk about what TV show we're watching and we can like get deep into our thoughts, right? Like not every friend needs to be that. But I think it is important to be mindful of who the people are around you, what they're talking about, and like if they're not moving towards your goals, cool. Like not everybody needs to lift me up. Like, I see these things where it's like, if you're not empowering me, like, well, like it's cool. Like I don't need everybody to lift me up. You need to be like a good person and you can't be negative and like all, but I don't need you to challenge me in all those ways because I have other people that do that. So it's just paying attention to that piece as well. So anyway, the point of you have the systems and you have the support. So by getting on the calls, like you're putting that in your brain of like, wait, I do know what I'm talking about. I just am a verbal processor. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what sometimes I have to remind myself of like, oh, I do know. I just need to like talk it out. Oh, this was fun.
So I'm thankful for you for being that
Yeah.
space for me.
Yeah. No, I'm such a verbal processor. Like,
Same.
Ron, am I part of this conversation right now? And I'm like, nope, just literally talking.
You're
Just
fine.
talking
You're fine,
myself
dude.
out loud. So yes. Okay. Tara, I love
Right.
that. And yeah, Melody says, yeah, what do you want retirement to look like? And it's so interesting because Ron and I are in these conversations about retirement because we have a lot of financial goals and retirement, compound interest. Anyway, everybody start investing today because I'm like, I had to talk with my oldest because I did not invest well and I'm 40 and I was like, you need to do it right now. I was like, the money compounds, don't waste a day. And he was like, okay. But yeah, so we are like in this conversation of retirement, which then makes me realize like, wait, me and you are going to be me and you in 10 years with just me and you. What the heck do we want our life to look like? And so I think again, these are really important things to give yourself space to think about. Awesome. Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Hey, Julie.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Loved that conversation. I have like moving ahead on my goals. I've got most of them mapped out. But what happens when you have a goal where you're like, I'm not actually sure. I don't actually know the steps I need to take to get to where I want to go.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Like,
100%.
So my husband, 2024, we're now in 20. So 2024 was like this like kind of horrific year, but like at the end, it was like, oh, that was really good in a terrible way. But like bad things happened, but like so my husband ended up on his own in business, but by the end of the year, he's now like his schedule is completely booked out for several months, and so it's looking to bring on more or like the next step in business. And I'm like, I don't. He does construction remodeling stuff. I know nothing about it. However, I am the business side of his business all of a sudden, and I've built a homeschool group from nothing to a large organization. So like I get the actual business side of it, but I know nothing about like general contracting.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, is the next step a website? Is it hiring or is it taking a course on how to be a general contractor? Like,
yeah. Yeah, like where do you go? Okay, so
what do you do?
Okay, I have a roadmap for you, steps. Whenever I find myself asking myself the question, I just don't even know the next step.
And usually you do. Usually, you know what I mean? Like usually I feel like you know the next step, or at least you know the next three. Like this is probably the first time ever.
Go out of your realm. Yeah. Well, this is where you're going to use dream, learn, plan, do. And that is the framework that's going to be next because that is going to start you off in the right direction. So I would say to take that goal and be like, all right, I'm going to spend some time in the dreaming. Like, how do I envision myself managing the business? Like, how in depth how much do I really need to know? What do I really want to know? Like really asking yourself, like, what does it look like on the day to day for me? What's my vision? Then you're going to take that. And then what I've been doing next is like this step in between the learn and the plan. That's phone a friend, if you will. And my friend is ChatGPT. So you're going to take your vision of what you want it to look like. You're going to go into ChatGPT and you're going to say, I am helping run the business side of the business. I can't think, what is the word I'm looking for? Like I'm going to help manage my husband's business. It is a contracting business. This is a vision I have for what this looks like for me. I have no idea anything about contracting. Please create me a plan of what I need to learn, right? In the next month or something. Or you can even ask it. What I've been asking it lately is like, because I don't even know like who would I learn from stuff. I'm like, can you give me a list of podcasts, books, and courses on this topic? And then it
Oh, I
internet,
love that.
the internets, and it gives me, and again, it's not the way it is, it's a little outdated, but it gives me a starting point. So then I can go there. And then what you could do is you can kind of go into it and then you can ask it to give you a breakdown. So you could say, I want to, what are the things that I need to know to make this business successful? And it might be like a website, a LinkedIn, I don't know, kind of whatever sort of stuff you need, right? And then you can say, I would like to accomplish these things over the course of 12 weeks, right? Like you want to help manage it. Please give me a week by week breakdown of what to do. And then it's going to make the plan for you. And the plan's not perfect because it has stuff in there that you might already know or that you need to learn more, or that, like it's not going to be
Yeah.
perfect, but it's going to be a starting point. And then you're going to take that and then you're going to say, okay, cool. I now know where to learn. So now I'm going to break my learning goal down. Oh, I now have a general plan. So now I'm going to move into the planned phase and like tweak it. And
Make
then
it
I'm
work.
started. So that is my answer to whenever I'm like, I don't know what to do next.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
never thought of that.
Yes, and I'm doing a workshop. You guys all get free tickets to it. It's in 2 weeks, so I really need to get my tail together. But it's on how to use ChatGPT to do stuff like this. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to give you prompts. Like the amount of things that we can be doing with AI as our personal assistant to save us time and to save us brain space more than anything else is incredible. And so that's what we're going to work through. Is if you like this, if this geeks anyone out, like. I think it's the 23rd. It was going to be the 30th, but then that's the day of my surgery. So I think we had to move it a week earlier. So next week I'll get it all together. Club members get to come for free because it was a bonus from the last cohort. So you all get to come. I'll do a day on it and we'll use the AI. But it is it's been really helpful for me when I'm just like, I don't know the next step. Like, just tell me the next step. But what I think is key when you're using ChatGPT or any of the AI tools is doing the dream first, no matter what. Because if you don't have your vision, then it's just going to give you stuff that's like very formulaic, black and white, right? So I like to write out, go for the dream walk, like do the dream sit, do the type, write like, and I'm doing this for work right now. I literally am writing a vision for each area of my business. And then I'm like, okay, I know my tasks, but I was like, what quarterly goals should I put that I'm missing? So I'll take that vision and I've been putting it into ChatGPT and saying, here's the vision I have for this section of my business. Create quarterly goals that I could work on. And then it pops up and the list it gives me, 70% of it's already on my list. Like I've already thought of 70% of it, but the other 30, I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, that would be a really good metric. Okay, that's a really good goal. Like I didn't think about it. So always making sure you have the vision piece written down first that comes from you, and then let the AI do the analysis in the start of the plan.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, super fun. I can't wait to see what comes up. It's really fun. Someone was showing me yesterday this thing, and then I didn't know, I knew you could do this, but I forgot. So just for anyone else, so say you're like, make me a 12-week plan in a spreadsheet format, listed out with like week tasks, I don't know, whatever you want in your columns, and it'll come up like a table, right? And I was like, oh, that's dope, a table. And I was like, I want this table. Well, then all you have to do is ask it, can you make a CSV so I can export this? And then it will make a CSV. You can export it and put it into Google Sheets or Airtable or whatever, and you'll get a spreadsheet of like your table. So you don't have to copy paste. You don't have to waste your time doing stuff like that.
Wow.
I know. I saw that yesterday. Someone showed me that yesterday. Like we were on a call and she was like doing something. She's like, wait, let me get the spreadsheet of this so we could play around with it. And I was like, wait, because I've been copy and paste and making my own spreadsheets. And she's like, why would you do that? I was like, because I didn't know I could. Like I didn't like think. The other thing I like to do with ChatGPT is to ask it to ask me questions. So I'll say, here's my vision and what I want. Ask me, I want you to ask me any questions you need to be able to make a comprehensive plan. And then it'll like interview me back and forth for a little bit of stuff I didn't even think I needed to give them information about. Like how long is your husband in business? Like what kind of, I don't know, like it might ask you questions that you don't have there that it would need to make a really good plan. So before you ask it for the plan, say, okay, based on this, ask me more questions. And then it'll help you get thought through.
Thank you.
Yeah, fun. I clearly I am excited about this topic. So This was a really fun SOAR call. I apologize for not being able to see my slides, but hopefully the lessons on mindfulness that we started with really helped. I am going to still put this whole call, because I feel like the whole call itself was really beneficial, into your portal. It'll go in S under the mindfulness lesson. So it'll just directly go there for you. And if you need anything, reach out. It's been a really, really good week. Yeah, Melody, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I feel like when it comes to internet stuff, like I always say this with Trello too, right? Like you could save your passwords on stuff, but it's the internet. I also feel like, and maybe this is a jaded, I don't know if that's the right word, but like the internet, like I put a social security number into the government. Like they know everything. The internet knows everything I'm doing anyway. So like I could sit and like hyper worry about everything. Like, don't put your bank account information. Don't give it. You know what I mean? Like you think about those protective things. Like I don't mean to be flippant about your question, because it's a real question that I will look into a little bit more about the privacy of those kind of things. But I am a little more jaded on the sense of like, they know all my like there's a reason Facebook gives me the ads of the things I'm talking about. Like they know all my buying history. Like they know all of my, it's already out there anyway. So I don't worry too much on that, but I will look into, I'm sure ChatGPT has some articles out about privacy. So I will look into that before the workshop, because I don't know the answer to that. And it is a good and valid question. It's like, I mean, I don't mean, like I said, I don't need to be like sarcastic to the answer of that. But that really is just genuinely how I think. I personally also do like a lot of those like phone rebate apps where I'm scanning my receipts. Like they know everything I buy. Like it is, you know what it is. So, all right. So Sunday planning. I'll see you all Sunday night and we'll get planned. And then next week we have a typical week of calls again. And we'll catch up. It was good to see everybody today. Have a nice one.